Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the dev server and we're looking at a new naval vehicle that is coming into the game for Japan. This is the IJN Nenohi. Now the Nenohi is part of the Hatsuharu class of destroyers, and we already have a Hatsuharu class in, which of course is the standard IJN Hatsuharu. There's slight differences between them. Basically with the Hatsuharu you have the two, you have a dual 127 here, and then a single 127 here, and the dual on the back, and then also all of the torpedo tubes in the center, meaning that overall you have 18 torpedoes that you want to go with. When it comes to the Nenohi, they've actually moved it, so on the front you only have one dual 127, and then one dual on the back, and then the single turret in this configuration, plus only two sets of torpedoes instead. So your torpedoes are cut from 18 to 12, where you have one reload with them, so that's a bit of a problem, making it slightly worse than the general Hatsuharu. Everything else about the vehicle is very similar though. There's not too much to really write home about. It's your pretty much bog standard 4.3 Japanese destroyer. The 127mm guns can pack a hell of a punch. Their reload isn't the best that we have when it comes to the game, and then also at the same time they don't have the best targeting speed, but it's not terrible. Like it's completely fine. The major issue is they lack AP. They only really fire HE, either HETF or standard high explosive rounds. So this pretty much means that the vehicles in general can find it hard or tough if they get up-tiered. You have to rely on your torpedoes, and the torpedoes that the Japanese get access to, well, most of them are actually very good, so luckily you can rely on them in some point. These are the Type 93 Model 1s, Mod 2s. They have a travel distance of 20 kilometers and also pretty quick in the water at 90 kilometers an hour. So this means that if you come up against large targets and you get into a certain range, you're able to do a decent amount to them. You don't have to just rely on your guns to keep you alive. The survivability of these machines isn't great, 240 crew, and also not exactly quick around the place, not a ton of armor either. The hull being 60mm is pretty standard for most of these machines, and the AA complement is poor. There's no real secondary armaments. The only other armament is an AA, which is two dual-mounted 25mm, which, let's be honest, is pretty much a waste of time. It's not really going to do too much, right? They're right here in the center. As somebody who's used a lot of Japanese vehicles, these 25s might be some of the weakest AA in the game. They only open up when targets are incredibly close to you, and that obviously is a bit of a problem. I would say the actual killing power of the vehicle is not bad though. It's just the other features I don't really particularly like. It's also at rank 2. And the problem with being a rank 2 is you already have the Yubari, which is the same BR, at rank 3. And being a light cruiser, you can use it for different things. You can use it for both your dailies, and you can use it for specials as well, where you're not able to use the Nenohi for those. So it's kind of a tough sell. The Yubari is a vehicle which is a hodgepodge though. Like it doesn't really have a proper setup to it. But I feel like there's probably a slightly better purchase than the Nenohi at the moment. This one feels like they added it basically because they added the Hatsuharu and they wanted to put in this one as well just to maybe make some money from it. But I just don't feel it as going to be as useful as a bunch of other vehicles. What is nice though is they did give it camouflages since it is obviously a destroyer. So you got a bicolor spotted camouflage, a tricolor, and then of course the unicolor as well, even though it isn't fully unicolor because it doesn't get rid of the other color that's around the place. So what you can do is you can set up just this real weird set with the black lines, which it just keeps along. So I'm not sure how I feel about that in general. I suppose you can make it look camoed out, but it just looks like somebody's put mud all over the vehicle, so why bother? The guns themselves have served me well in the Japanese machines, but the torpedoes have served me better. As somebody who is a arcade player when it comes to when it comes to naval. It basically means that the torpedoes are so much more useful for me because of the reload that you get. So I understand a realistic player wouldn't really probably bother too much about them, but as an arcade guy, after, you know, the speed of them being around and also just being able to annihilate certain vehicles with them, stuff like the Shimakaze and other vehicles are incredibly fun to use because of that simple fact. Just to show you how useful the 25s are, they just didn't hit that PBY at all. They've even just kind of given up shooting, so you definitely can't count on them, is the way to put it. But the simple thing with Japanese ships is you have to line up the torpedoes properly, you have to try and line up the guns properly, and then you have to kind of go from there, really. A lot of other vehicles, you know, they have a lot of weaponry which sits about the place, which can be pretty useful, whereas the Japanese ones, they have very, very defined firing arcs, and that can be kind of a downfall to it. Luckily, the second turret down there, hey, they finally got it. Luckily, the second turret down there does have a pretty good coverage to it, so it can go 360 around the place. The back turret, though, can't, so it's going to take ages if you need to switch target to get onto another one. Overall, I'd probably pick up something else. It is very classically Japanese in its general setup, but it has some limitations which I don't specifically like. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.